Yo, it's me. Call me back whenever you can. Love you, miss you, busy.
Going faster.
Hello, welcome to Homeless. My name is Masha, I'm 21 years old, and I'm recording this podcast for all my fellow abroad goers. Can you say it like that? Let's say expats. This is a podcast where I talk all about how it might look like when you move abroad for your studies. I'm currently in the Netherlands finishing a creative business degree, and I thought this is a perfect time to do a podcast like this one. And on my last episode, I invited two of my best friends to join me, and we talked all about how it looked like when we first moved to the Netherlands, how we experienced our years abroad, and where do we see ourselves in the future. So if you haven't listened to it, definitely go back. And that one is a little bit longer because, of course, we couldn't stop talking. We're talking about Christmas and how it looks like to go home for Christmas as an expat. I touched a little bit on this topic in my previous episodes, but what no one tells you is when you leave is that the hardest is to actually come back, at least the first time. So let's start with first Christmas home. And since it was COVID, it was really I was really excited to be back and see everyone and catch up with everybody. But because I wanted to see everybody and talk to everyone and actually spend some quality time with them, my schedule looked insane. Like I had every minute of every day planned, and I still didn't have enough time to see everyone and catch up on everything. And every single person told me, "Oh, will we see you before you go? See them twice." And I was there for 2 weeks. So, of course, that was impossible. But in between my family members, Christmas and birthday celebrations, I barely found time. But just because I didn't want to miss anything. And I also had to go to the hairdressers or go to the dentist. And that takes a lot of planning, especially since most of those facilities are quite hard to reach if you're out of the country. So, although I was so busy meeting everyone and catching up, I noticed one red lining throughout it. I didn't really feel like I fit anymore. And I can't explain it. And it's not like I didn't feel welcome. No, not at all. It just felt like I missed a part of their life. They missed a part of mine. And we just can't be on the same page anymore, or at least that's what I thought. And that's the time that I felt the most of oh, I'm not home here anymore, but I'm also not at home in the Netherlands. So I fell into this constant battle with myself because I thought that nothing's gonna change while I'm gone. But of course, things changed. People grew apart, and there were just also a few new shops open in the city. And although my life there physically stopped, theirs didn't, just like mine continued here. And it took me a while to be okay with that. At first, I felt a bit lost, I would say. I was overwhelmed with the so-called appointments I made, but I also felt kind of empty. And coming back from the Netherlands afterwards was a bit of a relief. Myself, or I still kind of do, when I was back in high school, where all I knew was my life back home. But then everything changed for me when I realized that the reason why I moved was because everything was so still for me back home. I felt like nothing was really exciting, and except for maybe casual parties or coffee dates with my best friends, but otherwise than that, not really. And I did keep all of those, just not all of them. So I realized throughout the years of being abroad that it's okay to grow apart with people from back home, just as it's normal to grow apart with people that you meet everywhere. And it's also okay to sometimes let people go. And the first year, I tried really hard to keep all of my friends. And I felt bad because I was always away and I was always leaving. And now I know where I fucked up. I wanted to keep our relationships the same as they were when I was still living back at home. And that's when we lived 5 minutes away from one another, when I didn't have this separate second life. I didn't realize it until a few years later that actually relationships can change their form, but if they're the right ones, they'll always kind of stay close to you. And of course, you need to make that extra effort to actually see them and speak to them, but that's how you know who's really your friend and who was only there for a ride. But I don't blame them. I was probably the same for some of them, and that's how we grew apart. But the ones that stayed are still here today. And I'm not gonna lie, we went through some rough patches. We went through feelings of envy, like where I envied them that they can still live at home and see their friends whenever they want. And I would say they probably envied me because I was creating this life away from anything that we ever knew. And we went through chapters of talking less to one another because we felt like we weren't on the same page. And as shitty as it sounds, but when you move, you have to grow up way quicker than everyone around you. And while they're still worrying about their high school crush not liking them back, they're trying to fix a broken washing machine. And it's a bit of an extreme example, but I think you get the point. We went through so many rough patches. The real ones really stayed around me. And although that I sometimes didn't answer or forgot to call back or didn't even reply for like 7 working days, we still sat down whenever I came home. We talked and we started to visit each other more often. And that's how we got back on track. They took the time to understand me and how does it feel to like actually have a completely different life outside of Slovenia. My friend circle definitely got smaller. Not only because I moved, although that has probably a lot to do with it, but also because I changed. But that's a story for next time. And don't get me wrong, I still feel bad because I'm away, but now I understand and they understand what that really means. So as you can see, my friends are a really big part of me, but so is my family. We're getting better at calling, but we're not brilliant, to be honest. We try, but life sometimes gets in the way and someone is always busy. But honestly, if I could give you one piece of advice, I would say just call home. When you had a shitty day and all you want to do is lay in bed and watch Netflix, call. When you had the most amazing day because X, Y, Z happened, call. Like, even if it's just an ordinary day, it doesn't hurt to call, and don't be afraid of them not picking up. They'll call you back, and if they don't, fly in and surprise them. Like, no, but really. Don't pressure yourself, like, I need to speak with everyone this week and the next one. You only need a few close people, and the rest will need to understand how you understand when they don't call. And I'm definitely guilty of calling too little, and I try to do it more now because I understood that everyone is only a call away, and on some days that's all you really need and is the closest thing to going home. Well, being back home for Christmas feels a little bit like a Hallmark movie. Just a few people know you're back and you stumble upon people you haven't seen in years at the grocery store, and you probably have one family fight, at least at some point. But I love coming home. I love being abroad, but the feeling of home is what really brings me joy. I spend 3 days at my parents' place, and then I want to pack all my stuff up and be on the first flight back out to the Netherlands. No, but really, it's not that bad. It's just in your head from far away, it's always better. Maybe because you're looking forward to it for so long that you romanticize it so much. But honestly, why not? Like, especially during the holiday season. I had a huge breakthrough last year for Christmas, and I think now I'm finally excited to be back again. Like, I'm looking forward to it, and I know it's going to be nice. Because last year when I came back, I thought I had to again schedule every single person in my tiny schedule, see them at least twice, do all the Christmas shenanigans as well. And I was running around trying to find presents for everyone. But then 2 days before Christmas, you know what? I got COVID. But not the one where you jump around and you're totally fine. No. The one where you lay in your bed, unable to eat or drink, with a fever and on a bed rest. And that's how all my plans flew into the water. I said goodbye to my Christmas, to all my plans, to my New Year's party. And fun fact, last time I celebrated New Year's, I think it was like when I was 18. And I'm 22 because I'm always sick or there's a lockdown. And I know it's a little bit overrated, but still at this point, it didn't seem like it. But anyway, back to my story. During the week and a half where all I could do is lay in bed and hang out with my family, I realized nothing really matters when you're sick. Everything gets a new perspective, and I realized that my life back home will never be the same as it was when I was 18. And people did change since I was 18. I changed. The place maybe itself stayed more or less the same, but I think because it didn't change, I thought nobody else did as well. And in general, the people still have the same problems, but how I see them now is so much different than I used to, and how I can finally go home without this overwhelming feeling of I need to meet everyone, see everything, and try all the new bars and cafes in the city. What I'm trying to say is it really did not happen overnight. It took me a lot of tears, happy and sad ones, and a lot of working on myself to get on to that point. Like, there's no ultimate plan you can follow or a step-by-step guide that will work. And as cheesy as it sounds, you'll just have to start and work on yourself. And since it is Christmas, I do hope you are celebrating with someone you love, with your family, with your friends, or just by yourself with a good movie or a book. And whatever it is, I hope you feel like yourself. And if you don't, you still have a few days in this year to set you up for the next one. And don't set yourself 20,000 goals you want to achieve, but rather where all those goals are coming from. Like, what would you like to change and why do you want to change it? There's one thing I have to say. I know Christmas is a little bit overwhelming, and it can be overwhelming. And I know there's always family drama. I can totally sign that off. And I don't think you should think of it as this Hallmark experience where everybody's happy and everybody's full of joy. Yeah, of course you're happy, but that doesn't mean that sometimes you cannot get in a fight or cry a little or feel overwhelmed and just want to go home. It's totally normal to feel like that, and we all do. Just nobody talks about it because of this whole Christmas shenanigans. I talked to one of my friends the other day, and we were talking about why Christmas is happening in December, and I think we came up with quite a good explanation, actually. December is such a bad month, not a bad month, but everything's so gloomy. And if you're not living somewhere like on the North Pole or somewhere in Spain where it's very, very warm, it can be quite, not depressing, maybe depressing is the wrong word, but it can be a little bit gloomy. So that's why we think they put Christmas in there. So you give each other gifts and everybody's happy again. So as somebody that knows that you can't just fix something with putting a Band-Aid on it, especially something mental, definitely take time for yourself this Christmas and this holiday season. I know it can be overwhelming to be back home, or even if you're not back home, even maybe you're still back in the same expat country, try to make the most out of it. Maybe it's your chance to make this Christmas even better than the last one. Anyway, to finish it up, reverse culture shock is something totally normal. It's something that we all experience, and it might be something scary at first, but the sooner you deal with it, the easier it will get. But you can deal with it in your own way. This is just one way to deal with it. And don't forget, you're always welcome home here, even when it doesn't feel just right. This temporary home will have to do until you find your own one. So we're all searching, so take a chill. And I'll talk to you again Sunday at 6.
Going faster.